War doesn't begin with explosions. It begins with silence. A city still standing, but breathing differently. Lights flicker. Windows tremble. People whisper instead of speaking. And somewhere in that broken world, a cat walks through the ruins, not screaming, not begging, just moving forward, as if the war is not new to it, because cats have lived through every human collapse, empires falling, cities burning, streets turning to ash, and when everything ends, they remain. Tonight, we're telling the story of the cats that survived bombs, fire, and the kind of silence that changes a human forever. Stay with me, because the next part reveals the strangest war story involving a cat. We talk about war like it belongs to humans. Strategies, generals, borders. But war has another side. The side no one writes in history books. The side that happens in alleyways, under collapsed staircases, inside abandoned houses, where the air smells like smoke and metal. Animals don't understand politics, but they understand danger. And cats understand survival. They can live without electricity, without running water, without comfort. They can disappear when they need to. They can hunt when the world has no food. They can endure when humans can't. And what's strange is, cats don't just survive war. Sometimes, they become part of it. They become symbols, warnings, ghost stories, a small body moving through the rubble, like the war itself cannot touch it. Before we begin, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there. And if you've ever seen a cat in a place it shouldn't exist, stay until the end, because the final story feels unreal. Cats didn't enter war as companions. They entered war as workers, just like on ships, just like in granaries. War creates rats. Wherever humans store food, wherever bodies gather, wherever waste piles up, rodents appear, and rodents bring disease. So armies brought cats, not for comfort, for survival, in trenches, in camps, in warehouses full of supplies. Cats hunted in the dark, silent, efficient, unseen. They were small soldiers, fighting a war no human wanted to notice, because it's hard to talk about honor and glory when you're losing to rats. Imagine the trenches, mud that never dries, cold that sinks into bone, the smell of damp earth and smoke, men waiting, not knowing when the next shell will fall. And there, a cat, curled in a corner of a dugout, eyes half closed, tail wrapped tight. Sometimes soldiers adopted them, not officially, just quietly, because a cat didn't ask questions, a cat didn't judge, a cat didn't demand you be brave. It just existed beside you. And in war, sometimes existence is the only comfort left. But there's something else. Cats react before humans do. They hear the distance shift. They sense the vibration. Some soldiers believed cats could predict incoming danger, not because cats are magical, but because their senses are sharper. A cat might tense up, seconds before the ground shakes, seconds before the screaming begins, and those seconds can mean the difference between life and death. War doesn't stay on battlefields. It eats cities. Homes become rubble. Streets become graveyards. And yet, cats still appear, walking between broken walls, climbing through shattered windows, moving like the ruins belong to them. There are photographs from wars across the last century, showing the same impossible image. A cat sitting calmly, beside a collapsed building, as if it's waiting for something, as if it refuses to leave. Humans see that and feel something strange, because when everything looks dead, and a cat is still alive, it feels like the world hasn't fully ended yet. It feels like something remains. Cats survive war for one simple reason. They're built for it. They don't need a group to survive. They don't need permission. They don't need hope. They need food, shelter, and timing. They can hide in basements, in sewer systems, in cracks between buildings. They can live off rodents, and when the fighting moves on, they step back into the streets like they were always there. War passes through them, and they stay standing. But survival doesn't mean peace. Many war cats become feral. They stop trusting humans. They stop coming close, because war teaches one lesson faster than anything else. Humans are unpredictable. One day they feed you. The next day they run. The next day the sky explodes. So the cat learns to depend on itself. Again, like it did 10,000 years ago. War creates stories the way fire creates smoke, and cats become part of those stories. There are famous war cats. Cats that lived on ships during battles. Cats that survived bombings. Cats that stayed in hospitals and somehow kept going. Not because they understood war, but because they refused to stop. A cat doesn't need a reason to endure. It just does. And humans need symbols. So they look at a cat surviving the impossible, and they turn it into meaning. This is luck. This is hope. This is a sign. But the cat never asked to be a sign. It only asked to live. Now we go into the part people don't like to describe. After the bombing stops, there's a different kind of war. The war inside the human mind. Trauma, shock, that hollow silence where you don't recognize yourself anymore. And cats appear there too, because cats don't speak. They don't demand explanation. They don't force you to relive what happened. They sit beside you and breathe. In some war zones, soldiers and civilians have described cats as the only thing that felt normal. A cat grooming itself in the middle of chaos. A cat purring in a ruined building. A cat sleeping beside someone who has lost everything. That small normality becomes sacred, not in a religious way, in a survival way. Because when the world breaks, you need something that still acts like the world is real. There are stories, and then there are stories that sound like myths. Soldiers have told of cats crossing battle lines, moving between trenches, walking through spaces where no human could survive, and somehow making it. No allegiance, no flag, just hunger, curiosity, instinct. Cats don't belong to nations. They belong to territory. And in war, territory changes every day. So cats adapt, again and again. Here's the part that feels heavy. Cats in war zones see things humans try to forget. They see bodies, they smell blood, they hear screaming, and still, they keep living. Because cats don't process horror like humans do. They don't collapse under memory the same way. They don't build stories around trauma. They move forward. And that's why they feel eerie. Because when you're surrounded by ruins, and a cat walks past you, it feels like it belongs to another world. A world that doesn't break. A world that simply continues. Back historians would tell you animals have always been part of war. Not just horses and dogs, but cats, hidden in supply lines. Veterinary experts would explain cats thrive in unstable environments because they are opportunistic predators. They can switch food sources quickly. They can hide efficiently. They can survive on less. Psychologists would tell you humans bond with animals in trauma settings because animals offer connection without judgment. A cat doesn't ask you to explain. It doesn't ask you to be okay. It simply exists beside you. And in war, that kind of presence can keep a person alive. But there's another layer. Some researchers believe cats in war zones become hyper-alert. Their nervous systems adapt. They become living sensors, reacting to sound, vibration, and danger long before humans notice. Not magic, but something close to it. Because to a human, a cat, reacting before an explosion looks like prophecy. So maybe cats don't survive war because they're lucky. Maybe they survive because they're ancient, older than our nations, older than our flags. They lived through the rise of cities, and they will live through their collapse. And now, I want to tell you the strangest war story involving a cat. because in one conflict and in one ruined place, people didn't just say the cat survived. They said the cat led them through smoke, through darkness, through streets where every turn meant death. They followed it because the cat moved like it knew where safety was hiding, and the ones who followed lived. Was it coincidence? Was it instinct? Or was it something cats have always had? A map inside their minds? A way of sensing the invisible shape of danger? In the next video, we'll talk about the cats who sailed into the unknown and what they witnessed on ships at night when the ocean was black and the human world was far behind. Stay close.